Brother, are you all right?
No, I am not all right. I just shared a bottle of Kanar with Damar. That rhymes.
You're drunk.
Of course I'm drunk.
But does the incumbent always have the better chance at winning?
Well, when you're relatively unknown by anybody anywhere in your country, and you're not a greedy politician, per se, yes.
Or don't have the stigma of it. Yeah, but so many times has that gone wrong. But then again, we are talking about... Wait. Are the KGB like Marines? Is there ever really such a thing as a former KGB agent?
A dead one.
Yeah, I guess the same could be said for the Marines as well.
Once a Marine, always Marine until death. Unless you do something stupid.
And even then, it's only to gather in the afterlife and reinforce. But yeah. So now that everyone can hear the wonderful shenanigans, we get up to right before we go live. This is going to be a fun one. And now, Leon, I did make sort of a promise to someone in the live chat who hasn't gotten to watch any of season 3 yet. So we're going to try to be as spoiler-free as possible. So you don't have to be completely spoiler-free, but let's not try to...
Bullshit!
Let's try to keep it mostly under control. Because, holy shit, I do have to agree with Dora at the beginning of the live chat before we went live. So, here's the question. Is the Orville top-tier sci-fi now?
Yes. Yes, it is.
I'm inclined to agree. And it's weird because watch season 1. It was a parody show. It started out as a sci-fi, Star Trek specifically, fanboy parody or homage from an admitted Star Trek fanboy. So we got what we expected from Seth MacFarlane. But holy shit, has it gotten better. Like, season 2 was an improvement and a change of pace of less of the comedy and more of the actual storytelling, but you still had those elements of the comedy. But season 3 is just taking it up another notch, or even 2.
I can't help but think, though, that this is actually a double negative situation. How do you parody a parody? Or rather, how do you satirize a parody? Because what I have right now, we have whatever the fuck the actual Star Trek shows, or quote-unquote Star Trek shows, are trying to do. McFarlane started out making a parody of the older shows. I'm not entirely sure right now that he isn't satirizing the current shows by making something that is, I would say, actually above TNG grade.
You know what? I'm trying to think of the way to characterize it and explain it, and I would start to view it this way. The vast majority of Star Trek that we have gotten, I would say post 2015. So the Kelvin timeline, putting that stuff, that's often its own little segment because, yes, I will give J.J. Abrams a pass on this one for admitting from the beginning that it was going to be an alternate timeline. and thereby an alternate universe. So the names may be the same, but it's not exactly going to be a reboot or replay of what had come before. So you get a little bit of a pass for creative license. So setting that aside, everything else that has come out, they have tried to force and shoehorn in as being part of the Prime universe and Prime timeline.
I was just forgetting that video, Jared. Thank you for reminding me.
And because of that, I would actually go as far to say that Discovery, Strange New Worlds, yeah, Lower Decks, definitely Picard. That is the satire unintentionally. And the way you satire an unintentional satire is by doing it right in the first place.
It's kind of sad, really, when you think about it.
It really is, because you would think... Well, actually, this goes to something that Jay and I were talking about before you came in because of your creaturely delay. So many things in life are truly cyclical. Like, when we look at the political landscape of things right now, specifically in and around the United States, there are a lot of parallels to the 50s and 60s. Except things are kind of 180 on who's doing and saying what. But it's still very, very similar methodology of what's being done. So maybe this is one area of Hollywood and entertainment going around the cycle and on the downswing, while you still have those elements that would be on the other side that are actually coming to prominence.
Yeah, because I can't think of anything else really that's... I can't think of any better explanation for what's actually happening right now. McFarlane, the guy who gave us the 5 minutes of that man has given us something that is... It's very fucking close to Prime DS9 territory, if not surpassing it in some areas.
I would say surpassing it, because by being in your own created universe, you do have a little more latitude and flexibility in the crafting of what's going on around the storyline you're telling. But then you also have Seth addressing topics and going into the storytelling and narrative aspect of it in more of a classic TOS TNG way, with the DS9 edge and lack of true utopia that especially TNG really hung its hat on in the grand scheme of things. So you have a melding of a lot of elements of classic Trek in a way that is new and refreshed because of the rest of the universe and setting that he's putting around it. And he's actually handling these stories in as close to an unbiased way as you can, while still telling the story with a conclusion. Because when you look at... this is not a spoiler warning, but they do readdress the court case that was on Mockless. And they do it in such a way that it actually goes towards the bigger issues at hand, the personal issues. And they do it in a way that even if you're a borderline hard ass, it makes you have to think about what is actually taking place. That this isn't just some disassociative topic that you're discussing, that there are people actually affected by how some of this stuff is being handled and decisions that are being made. And that is the beauty of it, is you're touching on these very sensitive and potentially powder keg issues, but you're handling it with a fine enough touch and grace that you can actually get through the story and get through the narrative that they're wanting to portray, while showing character development across the entire board. I mean, you are getting actual character progressions from what other shows would consider minor characters that don't require the effort. And I think that's the biggest difference, is that Seth and his assistant writers are putting in the effort for all of the characters that have more than a few seconds of screen time here and there.
There's something too here. When you watch the show, you actually have to remember what's happened before. You can't just say, oh yeah, I watched that episode. I don't have to remember it now. Because things will get, they will get brought up forward. Which, I've seen plenty of things now in the show where I've started thinking, this is actually something which would be, or which seems like they're going to bring it up later on. I'm recalling the earlier episodes now, recalling certain details, say, from example, where when Isaac and the kids were capsized on fucking planet away from the mother, or away from Claire, things like that, which you really do need to remember. It's not just a one-off. It's not a Riker-esque adventure where he's done something and then 2 seasons later, it doesn't fucking matter. He hasn't learned from it. It's not relevant anymore. This is a fresh episode. In the Orville, everything that gets brought up seems to actually stay in the universe. It still has weight. It still has some kind of meaning.
That, and they're not taking the easy way of having it be a direct fallout. They're actually delaying a lot of those references and consequences and results of it in a way that is so much more natural, because you make a decision today, any decision, you might see the consequences of it immediately. You might not see the consequences for a few days. Or it might be a couple years before you see the consequences of that decision, of that action you decided to take. And that natural progression, that naturalistic side of things, being put into the show's storytelling the way it is, works. And they're doing it just... I was afraid of the quality that we would get from season 3 of The Orville, partly because of how long it had been between development, filming, and release of season 2 and when they started work on season 3. The wait was well fucking worth it. It really was. I do not see a problem with them taking that amount of time. And actually, it's already been mentioned in the chat, by McFarlane finding the right place to support the show has given him the freedom to do what he needed to with the show. And he's completely capitalizing on that. I do not see this level of quality had they remained at Fox. I don't think they would have been able to do it. I don't think the budget would have been there. I don't think the patience would have been there. I think there would have been too much meddling from the executives if they stayed at Fox for season 3.
I'm kind of thinking, though, because with that, and then you see you remember the trailer for season 3, and seeing more action, seeing more close-up shots of a kind of darker timeline. And I guess I'd like this. That was the one fucking time in recent memory where I haven't been worried from seeing something like that, where I haven't been worried from seeing someone try something darker, from seeing something where it's more, how do I put it, where it's something more, quote unquote, mature. Every time otherwise, when it's come to Star Trek, when it's come to fucking Halo, Dune, everything. Any other time, I've dreaded it. Because I know that they've just been doing that in order to try to go as dark as possible. But they're doing it with no actual consequences. They're doing it without actually having any kind of, how do I put it? They don't have the story to support the darkness of it. In the case of the Orville, though, yeah, it really fucking is dark. It's supposed to be dark. The entire thing now that they're building up is dark, and it fits the universe.
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with the fallout from that battle with the Kalon. And you if you get your ass kicked that hard that it was, for lack of a better term, it was a miracle that you survived, what are you going to do? Well, you can't run away in that sort of universe. You can't relocate your entire populace because that would do nothing. So you have to prepare. You have to recognize this threat is still out there and they are exceedingly patient. But at the same time, they could be back in 5 minutes. We need to be prepared. We need to strengthen us, and they're sticking with that Federation Union-esque ethos of we are stronger than the sum of our parts when we work together. So, little bit of spoiler that I don't consider it being a terrible spoiler. They're trying to expand their alliances and treaties and cooperation pacts. That really is the underlying storyline of the season. They are trying to build a better coalition, but not just for themselves, but to save themselves and everyone else from the imminent threat. And then all the other storylines are what happens as they're going about that grander process. And being able to balance the two is where I say that they do have the comparison to the more mature Star Trek of Deep Space Nine. Yes, you have this bigger issue going on, but they're not hyper-focused on it. It's there. It's a priority. It's the main thing they're doing, but it's not the only thing they're doing. They're still living their lives in addition to all of this.
There's something. One of the things, and still, I can't say that there won't be any spoilers, yada yada yada. But they are going so much deeper into the actual storylines of the different characters, of how they think, which going into something like, say, for example, Officer Malloy and his everything. He's a fucking idiot. He's a moron. He is completely useless at everything besides flying. He's an idiot savant. But they're still managing to flesh him out. And they're doing it in a mature way. They're not showing him just being an idiot. They're showing him actually being a person, being someone who's capable of growth, capable of actually changing. And they're doing it in a really fucking tasteful way, where it's still being done in such a way that they can show he knows some of this, but he doesn't know himself as well as he might have thought.
Yeah, that's one of the things. When you look at it, we as human beings, yes, we learn from our mistakes. Some learn quicker than others, and Malloy is a prime example of that. And the way they've handled his character, oh, there was actually an episode that I think they did his character dirty, but the way they handled that episode was consistent with the morals, ethos, and standards that they've set out for themselves already. And it still allowed them a way to progress the character and also find the solution that a lot of people aren't going to agree with.
So what you're saying is the writers are actually writing properly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck yeah.
God, I miss the days when TV actually did that.
Well, and that's the thing is that how long have we been doing this series of shows, and how long have I been saying if you write and tell a good story, people are going to fucking watch it?
Well.
Well, going back to our conversation before we started, Jared, it's because we are afraid to tell the stories, damn the criticism of telling a story in a way that shows us to be human, to be imperfect, to be,
Flawed.
Flawed, yeah. It is gone in the mainstream world for the most part. So we have to spend our time criticizing that point before shows like Orville will take notice. And I'm sure Seth, that was his original plan anyways. It was to actually have character development, because that's how you gain an audience. That's how you grow and be able to tell your stories better and be able to, something that's trivial. Like how many fans go through a TV show season by season and pick out the little minute detail that foreshadows events coming on a season or two later that the average fan wouldn't notice. But it's only because they've gone through and watched it several times. They've understood the character development. They understood the growth of the character. So they can go back and see the foreshadowing that the writers had planned and that the showrunners had planned for it,
Well, not just that. Having a cohesive writer's room where, yes, you are going to have some turnover, some changes due just to creative and career progressions, but having a lead writer that keeps the overall vision going and keeps it within that this is our game plan, this is the story we're telling, even if you don't have a clear end point of how you're going to wrap it up, as long as you have someone maintaining that progression and that framework while also being humble enough to work with others. Looking at you, Disney. Being humble enough to actually maybe set a personal difference aside because you realize, okay, you know what, maybe their idea is right. Let's give it a go. Having that level of maturity and a professional standpoint in the business, you rarely see that now. And it shows in the quality of the product that of the media product and entertainment products that are being put forth. How many shows can actually legitly claim to be on par with this level of storytelling? And how many of those properties are actually, I'll even say, remotely commercially viable? I don't think there's many.
No. Not really many at all.
And part of that does speak to the audience, though, too, because if the audience isn't going to watch, I can understand why some studios won't take the risk. But I'm glad Hulu did.
But really, looking at it, as it is with the Orville, seeing how the Orville has actually attracted so many fucking people, wouldn't it kind of surprise you more if Hulu said they weren't interested?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes and no, because here's the thing, is that still to this day, you have a stigma on certain genres of shows. Sci-fi shows that are blatantly sci-fi generally don't get the broad appeal that a lot of your studios are looking for. But the thing with Hulu is a streaming service like Hulu has a unique opportunity where they can really hyper analyze what their subscribers are actually watching and how long they're staying engaged. And if you know that you have those metrics available and you can analyze it, then something that another studio might see as a big risk because of your additional analytical tools available, it may not be that much of a risk. Because think about it, until Paramount strangled access to the legacy Star Trek content, where do you think people were going to watch Next Generation, TOS, Deep Space Nine, if they didn't have the hard material available to them? We were going to Netflix and Hulu and the streaming services that had it. So why wouldn't you capitalize on something that is continuing in that vein and is satisfying a thirst that your audience has, that you can plainly see your audience has? And I think that's probably the most damning part of it, is Disney has access to these sorts of metrics, and they seem to be fumbling the analytics.
This overall doesn't seem like they don't seem to value their customers. Disney seems more like, oh yeah, but these people seem to like this. We can't have that. No, we have to try to turn these things around. So we're going to give them more of the stuff they're not interested in.
Well, it's not so much it's stuff that they're not interested in. They're taking the IPs that there is a fan base for, that there is interest in, but then they're taking the political bent and changing parts of the IP to fit the political narrative. Because let's not mince words. Let's not misread this. Entertainment is a propaganda tool by the governing bodies of the nations and cultures that consume this media. But it doesn't have to be. But we know it is. And Disney, for coming up on 100 years, is one of the bigger players on that side of the spectrum when it comes to entertainment. So it doesn't surprise me that, hey, this franchise has a huge fan base. We can use it, and then we'll try to manipulate the fan base. But they've been doing it in such a piss poor way of the changes they're making that they did it too much, too quickly. And instead of going with the slow boil to keep the frog in the water, they just immediately increased the temperature and the frog jumped out.
That didn't really even... They tried putting it on a fucking hot hob. They didn't even have boiling water in this case. They're too fucking cheap.
Well, you still get the analogy, though. You could see what they were trying to do. You could see the reasoning that they told themselves on why they were going down the road that they've been going down. But they did it in the wrong way. Too much, too quick. And with some of the rumors that have been coming out lately, someone may be leaving Lucasfilms pretty soon, and they're going to be rather fucked because of it. Yeah, for those who don't know and didn't hear the release, the relationship between Jon Favreau and the Disney executives are such to the point that he will not be a part of any meeting or conference call or Zoom call if Kathleen Kennedy is there, and she is not allowed on any of his sets. And if any conditions he set forth are broken concerning her proximity to his projects, he's leaving.
Oh, I thought you were saying Doomcock was going to come out as Kathleen Kennedy.
I mean, it would be interesting to see if someone played that just to see if Favreau would actually do it, because apparently James Gunn has also been trying to lure him away from Disney as well. So, I mean, a shakeup like that, again, this is rumors that have multiple sources, but it's still rumor overall. But how fucking hilarious would that be? I would not have a problem with the mouse screwing itself over to the point that it goes bankrupt. Like actual financial bankruptcy.
Government won't allow that to happen. They rely on ABC and all the other subsidiaries that Disney owns too much to be propaganda arms for them. They won't allow it to happen.
Yeah.
You know I'm right on this.
Yeah. No, I definitely see that. But at the same time,
the car companies all over. It's the big banks and the car companies during the crash of 2008, 2009, all over again.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, if Disney were to go into bankruptcy, they would have to sell off those factions because those subsections of it are still profitable enough.
But that's just it. They're doing creative accountancy to funnel off of those to pay for the things that Disney's trying to produce. They put just a bare minimum of back into minimal research and development, marketing, etc., for their news companies, their other media ventures, theme parks, etc., but use it to funnel to pay for the movies and the animation side of things.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what Google has been talking about for a while. Oh, we use we use cash flow from this segment of our business to keep YouTube afloat. That's why we had to cut down on the ad revenue payouts. Bullshit.
Yep. The vocal minority was too loud, and they needed more money to grease that squeaky wheel. In this case, taking the money from actual content creators that actually try to do the work, to funnel money to the content creators that have the right agenda.
Yeah, go for it.
There is one good thing about all this, and that is, most of the time when you have shit like that going on, it really does follow the old saying, go woke, go broke. Because it might not be fast, but considering that they keep losing money, they keep having these kinds of leaks. Yeah, it doesn't really matter how much money you have. There is an end point to all of it.
Yeah, it just sucks that because of how pervasive the influence of these couple entities have gotten, there really aren't any viable alternatives for certain things.
Okay, let's take Google. How often do you use anything else than Google? We have people who use DuckDuckGo, and sure, you can use that. No real big issue. But they're assholes too. They're all assholes. If you use something like, say, Twitter, yeah, you're going to be stuck with Twitter. Because you can't really properly leave Twitter once you're actually on the fucking shit. Even if you do try to leave it, you can try to, get back on it. You're not ever on your own again. All of these fucking things that then try to, let's say, change a little bit at a time. Oh yeah, but you like these people? Oh, you can't post this here. Or no, you got your stuff reported because this isn't right. This isn't accurate to what we think. I know, but this is hate speech because we don't agree with it. You have all those fucking things, and those are the major platforms. If you don't agree with it, too bad for you. You have no real alternative. Because the alternatives, well, that's just a Trump platform. Oh yeah, but that's just used by fascists. Oh no, those are just idiots using that. You really have no other option.
Yeah, and Nikki just pointed out, I've been trying to leave Facebook for years, but I still have to use it from time to time. I can't remember the last time I actually posted something on Facebook. Still have the account, but can't remember the last time I actually used it.
And with some of this shit too, you might not want Facebook, but it's really good to have the messaging.
It seems apt for what we're talking about.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. And what's funny is the flexibility of this. Because pick a topic Pick any subject that causes some sort of friction or disagreement, and you will have a change of the people who are on the left side of this image and the people that are on the right side, and it will change so much just based on the topic that's at hand.
Yep.
So, who wants to invoke Godwin's law? No, seriously. You have so many of those things there, and sadly, people aren't even willing to talk about it. And you know how many times we've had people, for example, on the server, trying to bring something up, and they bring it up with absolute certainty, and they have no fucking idea. They have no clue what it is that they're actually trying to put out.
Oh, or knowing what a proper source is and how to reference it. One of the biggest things that everyone has to deal with, to varying levels of intensity. We all have a confirmation bias. We all have a bias. It's accepting that you do, and working with that to question yourself in a healthy way of, do I agree with this post because it agrees with me, or do I agree with it because it is sound? Everyone needs to have that sort of self-reflection and check on something that they're putting out, as especially when they are in favor of it. If you find yourself agreeing with something, which, if it came across your feed, if it came across your recommended or your timeline, there was some tailoring to put that in front of you. Just accept that now. It was put there in front of you because Big Brother algorithm trimmed it because of it. It's like, hey, you've shown this methodology in the past, you've shown this proclivity before, here you go, here's more. So, yeah.
This is the last thing I posted on Facebook.
And it's true.
I almost quoted Foamy in this post, but I was like, no. Nobody will get the reference because they don't listen to him.
You know, if ever we were going to take a VTuber cartooned avatar person and put them in a position of actual leadership with actual power behind what they do and say, I would have no problem with Foamy being our new overlord.
Oh, hey, the gray squirrely master.
I am still a card carrying member of the Foamy card carrying cult. And yes, that also means I'm fucking old.
I'm not that old. I remember.
Oh, no, the card cult thing, that was when Neurotically Yours, the actual name of the webtoon that Foamy the Squirrel is from, that was in the days of Newgrounds' heyday. 15, 16 fucking years ago.
You do know I was there.
Yeah, it's just.
I'm not that young.
But that's the thing is, I know there are people out there who may come by this and are like, "What?" And it's like, no, this has been around for a fucking while. Yes, he actually actually had cards, like business cards, and I still have mine somewhere. Nostalgia. Sometimes it's fun to revel in.
Ooh.
I can't help but feel though, like we should try to strive for having leaders that are of the caliber that we see in some shows, like The Orville, where you can have a leader who knows the letter of the law, who knows that there's a lot of shit that needs to be followed, who follows it, but doesn't actually necessarily agree with it, and can at the same time be, if not lenient, then understanding when someone else has broken a law that just makes no sense. Or when someone else has actually broken a decision because that decision is just fucking retarded.
Yeah. Because there are times that the letter of the law and the intent of the law do get muddled. And I think that's what a lot of people have capitalized on is that disparity. Where if you have clarity in the law and remove as much of the ambiguity, well, then it becomes easier to enforce. It makes it more clear cut. And a lot of what we're seeing now is the result of people thriving in the gray area, thriving in the muddledness that has come of things. And there are aspects of entertainment media that are just reinforcing that. So be like the Orville. Be clear, or as clear as possible, while maintaining an effective and appropriate moral center. Do what's right to the best of your ability and condemn those and condemn that which would be counter to the progression of the betterment of life for all. Not just all the people you like, everyone.
That really does seem to be hard, though.
Well, yeah, because tribalism is a thing. Like some of the instances that we've seen in the current season of the Orville, they've had to try to soften and muddle the differences between the Union and other societies just to try to get a dialogue going.
Also, outright fucking lying.
Yeah, but it's one of those things when you look at it, you can understand where they were coming from and why they made that decision. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. Understanding a position does not mean you agree with and support that decision. And I think that's a distinction that a lot of people have lost too.
How many times do you see in shows now otherwise? They have a character who they don't agree with a decision. And instead of actually dealing with it like, an adult, I don't agree with it, but it's not illegal. I'm going to have to actually do it anyway. they decide to just go ape shit, abandon the post, just do everything poorly, for the simple reason that, oh yeah, but I don't like this.
This sounds an awful lot like Mikey Spark.
Kinda maybe.
Or how about hatching a plan, stealing provisions from your own crew to go do a thing that might actually help save the crew, but you tell absolutely fucking no one about it. And then people rightfully look at you as, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Yeah, I don't... Sorry, in any organization like Starfleet, Burnham would never have been promoted back into the officer ranks after her time in custody following the court-martial. Let alone ultimately become captain.
Do you remember a certain incident years ago where I think it was something to do with maybe cakes? Someone denied service, whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah, in Colorado. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that one.
And there was a huge fucking uproar over it.
Yep.
Because rather than go to another bakery, no, I'm gonna make you make mine.
Oh yeah, and then after he won the first case, the city come back on wall because you're the only way to access your business is through the public sidewalk. You have to still, serve people who you don't want to serve in that sense. Which he's now fighting that case.
Now I'm more thinking, why is it in this case that one of these is a really bad thing? We can't support this. We can't allow this to happen. When it's in one direction. And in the other direction, it's idolized. I don't support these decisions. I don't support this. So I'm going to rebel against it.
Well, Leon, you have to remember, you're dealing with political extremists. And the thing with political extremists is, if they didn't have a double standard, they'd have no standard at all.
Oh, I find the whole thing highly hypocritical. How many
You
times?
think?
Well, how many times in recent Star Trek shows have we seen something where someone's been grandstanding? Oh yeah, we don't like this. This is something that I can't abide by this. And they feel the need to completely shit all over the uniform, etc., just because they have their own view of something. And at the same fucking time, someone does that, and I don't care if it's for religious reasons, whatever the fuck reason it was for, but they did that because they believed in that themselves. And in one of these cases, the person gets lauded based on modern day, or current day rather, moralities. And in the other case, they have a lawsuit put against them. There's something about that just makes me feel like there's a bit of a double standard.
Again, refer to Jared's comment about double standards.
Yeah, there's so much of that shit everywhere now.
And not to tangent too far off of, sci-fi, but this is exactly why I've been writing the blog posts I have been lately. Because of the double standard, the hypocrisy that people can't seem to take, or that they can't seem to see in front of their own face, that they have these standards.
I think they see it. I think it's that they can't accept it because of the implications of it.
No, many of them, it is, from what I'm seeing, is they don't see the double standard in. So, for example, and again, sorry to bring politics into this, we have the Roe versus Wade situation. Okay,
It's all fucking politics.
it is. Um, we have the Roe versus Wade overturned decision, right? Rather than seeing that what Roe versus Wade was and what they were saying in the majority opinion on this, it is so easy for them to say, well, it's a parasite. It is the pro-choice. It's a parasite. It's this. It's that. It's my body, my choice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then on the other extreme, you have it's it's life at the moment of conception. You're killing them. You're murdering. You're blah blah blah. When in reality, most people are probably in my camp, and I would assume Jared probably somewhat agrees with me on this, is that you're pro-choice up to a certain point, at which point, if there's no other reason than just mother's choice, maybe we should find a way of doing a C-section or transferring into
There are other options than abortions when you get that late in a pregnancy.
Yeah. Yes. And the whole point of the whole point of it, my position is, yes, your body, your choice. There's up to a certain point, by all means, have at it. Don't care. Once there's a viability option, that's when it's like, okay, now we're getting to the realm of, well, hate to use the right wing term here, but murder, at that point. And then who was I listening to the other day? It was a Timcast thing. One of his live roundtable show. But basically somebody made the point that, a woman has the right to choose the abortion had the right to choose abortion at any point. But if the man didn't pay for the child ongoing after she decided to have the baby, he could go to jail. He could do all this other stuff could happen to him. Where's his option to opt out of the whole thing? But if he wants to have the baby and the mother doesn't want to have the baby, the mother's right in her choice. Again, the double standard there.
Yeah, and it's also funny when you actually look at how some people that are making themselves an active part of that discussion point to other nations and other parts of the world for examples of, oh, we should be like these people. Only to find out that one of the places they're pointing to actually has even more stringent restrictions than the U.S. does.
Mm-hmm. Some of them also practice. How do people refer to it? Oh yeah, FGM, female genital mutilation.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh no, that's a cultural thing. That's no, we can't interrupt with that.
Oh, and then there are people who would want to interrupt with that. And at least a number of those people I've come across are at least consistent in this aspect that they look at FGM in the same light that they look at circumcision. So
of a baby.
Yeah. So there are some who's like, hey, you know what? Good on you for that consistency.
It's still fucking horrible, but...
Yeah, it is. There are so many things that Western civilization does right now that are really archaic when you look at it, and ultimately it boils down to, well, it's tradition. Well, traditions can change.
Yep, and then there are many things in the Western society that we're trying to change too that have been properly experimented in other countries, such as the Soviet Union, that have failed and need to die, and we just won't let them die.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't just the Soviet Union, but you also have Venezuela, Cuba, and
China. Maoist China specifically.
Yes. Yeah, because that was another thing. I will say this now. Unfettered capitalism, bad idea. Complete full-on communism, bad idea. Socialism, which is actually, according to Marx himself, the necessary first step to go towards communism, bad step. But if you blend things in a proper way, if you actually balance shit out, then it would actually work.
You mean like, I don't know, have capitalism, most things, but maybe introduce a slightly higher tax on everybody to pay for the fundamental well-being of everybody, so nobody can go bankrupt for cancer or, heaven forbid, maybe catch a potential shooter before they actually have the chance to do it, and get them the mental health help they need.
Oh, why would we want to do a thing like that? Then we wouldn't have a tragedy to politically bank off of.
Yeah, it might mean that we actually get to keep the Second Amendment the way it's written. Oh, damn. Can't have that now.
Be honest, though. Do you think that these people, if they had the chance, would remove mass shootings?
Oh, hell no.
No, because they want things like that to happen to use as leverage and the impetus to do even more controls that they want. Both sides of it.
Mm-hmm. This is why, this is why when you talk about the Second Amendment and you bring up a national healthcare system to help weed out the mental health problem that is a part of the mass shootings, you get the left who's like, oh, no, we don't want to really help these people. And then you get the people on the right. Now you're just trying to put up red flag laws and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah.
As Benjamin Franklin put it, those who would sacrifice personal liberties in favor of security deserve neither.
But with that, let's try to apply that to, say, the Orville. Do they have common sense gun laws? I had no fucking idea. But it seems overall like the people there are more, let's say, properly adjusted. If you look at today, though, yeah, common sense gun laws. Oh, it sounds so good. I mean, it's just common sense. Have you seen what people think about or what people think about guns? What people think that guns do? Just having some demented old code saying, oh yeah, it'll blow your lungs straight out when it comes to 9mm.
Oh no, the funniest one I saw was even better than that recently. The 5.56 round, the 2.23 round, will leave an exit wound a foot wide.
I was hoping you would bring that up.
A foot wide?
Yep.
In what?
A
Melons?
human.
Wait, where's my...
Yeah, think about that, Leon. That intermediate caliber should not be owned by anyone because it's a weapon of war, because the exit wound it produces is a foot wide. Oh, that's right. It was someone in government that said it too. I forgot that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Explodes on impact.
The skull does. Now, mind you, and here's the hilarious fucking thing, people. Y'all remember what happened to JFK, right? The round used in that Italian rifle was larger than that used in the AR-15. Kennedy's head didn't go poof. Well, part of it did, but not the entirety of it.
We're not allowed to hunt with fucking 2 to 3 here when it comes to the larger animals because it isn't powerful enough. I would like to have that though. Jay, right click it.
Do you want me to save it to you? Send it to you?
Right click it and then open image in a new window.
And then you can zoom better.
New tab.
Yeah, it's... But getting back to... Excuse me. Your question about the Orville. There's a lot of things that we don't know about their private, their personal culture outside of the Union because they've never said it. They haven't actually addressed things like that.
But we can see some of the things in how they're reacting to other people. When met with barbarism, they act with disgust. When met with how we treat one another today, they just look like they can't understand where it comes from. When they when they actually get that look back in time, they see it as a curiosity, something that we've grown past.
Which I will agree that there are some things that we do now that I hope is just part of a phase and we get better. Like, and part of it really is tied into we need to take better care of ourselves as a people, especially on the mental health side, because you have people doing absolute stupid shit. You have people claiming, stating a position, stating a belief, and if you don't agree with them and treat them in such a way that aligns with their mental state, you're a bigot and a horrible person. I'm sorry, but a biological human cannot be a fucking cat. Or a deer. Or any other species. I will not support that level of delusion. Get help.
I'm not so sure. Didn't cats look kind of realistic?
The 1998 one looked better. And was better.
The new one is fucking nightmare fuel.
Wait, hang on. Human qualities to it because it looks human? But I assure you, if it were a box on wheels, I would not be facing this opposition. Okay. Yeah. Pulaski was special.
Special. But I kind of feel like that we see a change from how we think that things should happen and then applying that to others and seeing that too. Yeah, it's actually more about individual, especially looking at the last episode, or latest rather episode now of the Orville, because things are actually getting back to normal. We're seeing things here now which reflect on a huge part of the universe. And it's something where I don't think that they could have done it in any better way I don't think that they could have changed it to make it any better if they tried now. And it's really hard to talk about all this without having spoilers.
Yeah.
Especially since one of those episodes is, I would say, it's in my top 10 Star Trek episodes ever.
I will flat out say it this way. The worst episode of the Orville season 3 so far is still 10 times better than any episode of Discovery, 100 times better than the best episode of Picard.
It's not even a bad episode. So far, there haven't really been any bad episodes. It just makes it so much better.
Haven't heard the... There's the alert I was waiting for. $5 Aussie Super Chat. That this could be an interesting one from Davros. Best cats in cinema. Jonesy, Cat from Red Dwarf, and the black and white cat from Postman Pat. Prove me wrong. I do agree with Cat from Red Dwarf. That character is immensely entertaining. Trying to remember Jonesy, and I've never seen Postman Pat.
Isn't Jonesy from Aliens?
That's...
Or rather, Alien.
I think so. But, best cat in cinema.
It's a hard one.
What about any one of the cats from Aristocats?
O'Malley is the only cat from there that would be worth it.
Do we want to go into just utter fucking specifics?
Concerning what exactly?
The cat and ghost that Patrick Swayze scares in order for it to attack a robber.
That was... I remember it happening. I forget what Swayze's character had to do.
He essentially just had to, well, scare it, I think. I don't think he ever touched it. But he managed to just creep it the fuck out.
Oh, so basically you just had to do what Davros does and walk in the room?
Well, kinda, yeah. I mean, here's a ghost. Not Davros, Swayze. I don't think that Davros is a ghost. You say it's not memorable. I remember it. Just because you don't remember it.
Jared is cringer, huh?
Hey, I've never denied that I have my cringe moments, but everyone does, so...
It's all about the frequency.
Now, that was a weird movie.
Frequency?
Yeah. But, like... I get you want to have some sort of interesting premise and everything, but a time-traveling radio signal going backwards in time?
There was a localized singularity in the house. What can I say?
It's fucking weird.
Well, if they weren't trying to build their own mini CERN in the basement,
Oh, so that's where Stewie came from.
pretty much.
Actually, what is a completely and utterly just bonkers, just completely retarded thing you can think of as a premise for a Star Trek show or Star Trek type show? And how would you make it work?
Have here's the way to do it. You have First Contact actually be the premise of and a recreation of the movie The Arrival with Charlie Sheen.
That movie wasn't actually too bad looking back at it.
No, it wasn't bad looking at it. It was a pretty decent storyline. It just was the overall plot. If you're not into science or anything, you're kind of like, this is a bit far fetched.
Well, if you're going down that road, you're going to use another property as an impetus and calling it far fetched. Oh, what was the name of it? I want to say it only came out a couple years ago with the fucking circular written language and the tentacle aliens.
Oh,
Contact.
that one's called
Arrival.
Arrival.
Oh, yeah. Duh. That one. Yeah, there's some logistical issues on getting that to actually fucking work.
Well, first of all, you have to get rid of Forrest Whitaker eye to make sure that it can work.
Well, no, I mean the translation part of it.
I know. I was having fun with it. Damn it.
Although, now, honestly, I think it would be more fun if we take something like, say, which was it? Scary Movie 4? Scary Movie 5? The one where they, with Charlie Sheen as the drunken,
3.
former priest. That was 3? I thought it was later than that.
That's 3. It's the one that's actually directed by the people who made Naked Gun 2, I think.
Which explains
Which is why
a
it's the
lot.
best one.
That explains a lot. But yeah, imagine starting off with that type of first contact situation. That could be... That could get really interesting, especially because of the, oh, this is how we say hello.
You know what's funny? Now that I'm thinking about like various movies / shows, whatever, that steal ideas from others. You obviously have like the body snatchers or the evasion of the body snatchers and the pods and things like that. Do you remember the movie The Faculty?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me that is not a almost blatant ripoff of the Next Generation episodes where they had the little stinger aliens. They're the aliens with the stinger that sticks out the neck.
Oh, the one that they set up as being some big to-do and potential massive fucking issue with inside Starfleet Command, but then totally drop it.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that, but you definitely have to admit, they dressed it up nicer in The Faculty.
Well,
and had a better soundtrack.
Well, of course. And then you also have The Arrival, which turned around and influenced the way that they were writing Enterprise's Carbon Creek. with a combination of taking factual historical events that happened in the U.S. around that time. Not wrong.
Not wrong. And here's something to think about, though. At least the premise that they put out in Carbon Creek is plausible. That if you had an alien species that was sufficiently advanced enough, they could ultimately learn our languages or have the technology to do the translation. And if they were humanoid enough, they could conceivably blend in for a short amount of time. However, here's my gripe with something like the Universal Translator and Dune 2021 by extension. What you would actually end up having with an actual proper Universal Translator that is supposed to work the way they claim that it does in Star Trek, you would have the guild. So go to the 1984 version of Dune movie, the first scene where the guild navigator comes in, and you have the guild attendants that have the overgrown speaker box as the translator. You can still hear the native language behind it with that very slight delay before you get to the galactic common tongue. That's how the Universal Translator would be in actual practice.
Yeah, at least on a personal, like the comm badge, and then the Universal Translators that early Starfleet was carrying. Yeah, that makes sense. But when you're talking on a ship-wide level, like the ship's communication system, I could see that you wouldn't have any of the audio from the native language come through.
Yeah, you could filter that out through the ship's comms, but there would still be that slight delay between, and it would be almost an unnerving delay between seeing your counterpart's lips moving and then hearing what they're saying.
Well, no, that it's possible to do it if you think about it with the time delay on OBS.
If you delay the video
Yeah,
have that processing delay, just pause the video, almost like what they do with current live TV feeds. Because someone decided to rip a pasty off of someone's costume and oops, it malfunctioned. No, it was fucking intended to do that.
Yep. It was, but sitting there thinking about it, the only way that you would have that lag where the computer can't where the computer has to take time to do that is when meeting a species for the first time and it's doing its mathematical computations to figure out what's supposed to mean what. But other than that, like when you have the Ferengis or the Romulans or whoever, the Universal Translator could easily, slowly intercept the communication line to where it almost looks like it's real time, but not quite.
I would have actually preferred it if they made it so that they had a translator. However, the translator didn't necessarily translate words. It translated intentions. And then they actually ran into some people who tried to take advantage of them. Who tried to take advantage by trying to lie. However, the translator just cuts through all of that, and they don't know that that's how the translator works.
Have it be a bit of a lie detector in addition to a translator?
Not so much lie detector, more that the people using these translators have no other thoughts about it. To them, this is the most natural thing. It's just, it's the way it works. And then you have these other people who are straight up telling them to their faces, yeah, we're going to rip you off. Yeah, we're going to take all your resources, etc., etc. And the other people are using highly careful speech and everything in order to try to hide their intentions. But the translator don't fucking care. It just completely translates what they mean. And it fucks them up.
Oh, that is actually something that's come up, talking about the communicators and translator built in Star Trek, how you can end up thought policing and controlling language without the user even being aware of it if you program it right. And I love that picture, and I love that it's come up a couple times in the server.
This is the first time I saw it, so I just thought I'd share it with the rest of the class.
Back to the primary topic. In the Kanar with Damar suggestions, Cal posted an article from Heavy.com. A petition to remove Alex Kurtzman and replace him with Seth McFarlane. That is something we have talked about before, and I would be in favor of. McFarlane would be one of the few people I believe that could actually handle the Star Trek property with the proper amount of care and respect that something with that much history deserves.
To be honest, though, at this point, I don't want him to.
No, he is doing such a job with the Orville that keep doing that. And that's where I agree that McFarlane could handle it. However, I would rather see Star Trek go stagnant for a decade or more and not be touched until someone with the same ability of McFarlane comes back to resurrect it. Then it needs that time to breathe and just sit idle for a while. Get the bad taste out of the mouth. Get the mistakes to kind of be less fresh, and then readjust and retry.
Because right now, I would much rather have a completely fleshed out Orville universe than trying to go in and essentially having the Orville universe still put on hold just in order to get more Star Trek. I like Star Trek. There's no issues with Star Trek. But Star Trek hasn't been Star Trek in fucking years. And having someone else try to take over right now it's not going to solve anything. It's just going to fuck up two properties rather than just one.
Yeah, that's why I say let Star Trek sit and stew and collect dust, for lack of a better term, for a while. Then come back to it later as a proper reboot and rehashing. And then you can actually write in the explanations that, oh yeah, all this shit was either this person's fever dream, this person's simulation, or it was in this alternate timeline of an alternate timeline of an alternate timeline. And then, hey, great. It puts it into its own pocket. It acknowledges that, yes, this shit exists, but it's in this section of things. And parse it out that way. That could work. But even if they were to try to parse it out in that sort of manner now, the damage that's been done is too fresh. You need to let it heal. And constantly poking it is not going to do it. You need to leave it the fuck alone. So let Seth completely flesh out and finish the Orville. By time you get around to even considering reopening the Star Trek side of things, he's probably going to be retired. So you're going to need to find someone with the McFarlane ability to handle the project, but it may not be him. It most likely won't be him.
Which actually kind of sad thinking about it. I way prefer that to the alternative right now.
Yeah, I am a huge Star Trek fan, and for me to say that you need to stop should be a fucking clue. Granted, I think people are also saying that about Doctor Who as well, which kind of have to agree with
Isn't
them.
incorrect.
Hmm?
It's not incorrect.
Yeah. Like, I get they're bringing back Davies to be the showrunner, but why not just leave it alone for a while? It'll still be the longest running and prestigious sci-fi show in that aspect, but do they really think the damage can be undone overnight? I don't.
Well, of course they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying this.
Well, there's also the people who have started to refuse to pay their license fee, which is the funding source for the BBC.
Well, I mean, you know, yeah, they just, yeah.
I That was always an interesting setup, that it's government funded, but oh no, we're not messing with the programming.
And then you start seeing shit that don't add up. And when people bring it up, well, you're not a racist, are you? You're not a homophobe, are you? No, these people just hate us for no reason. It's not because, they're ruining the fucking shows by trying to put identity before what the actual person is. No.
Yeah, the ethnic background and ethnic upbringing is one of the least factors you should be worried about when you look at a person's character and the actions and behaviors that they partake in.
This actually does remind me. There is a book series by Terry Pratchett called Johnny and the whatever the fuck. There's the bomb. There's only you can save humanity, etc., etc. However, it brings up one really good point that someone, I can't remember who it was, brought up way before, in that gingers are the most put aside, set aside people in all of media because they always get replaced. One of the characters in one of these books is called Pepper, and
Potts?
she's no, I think it's Pepper actually. I can have a look that up.
Are you sure it's not Peppa Pig?
Pretty sure. It's not Pepper. I can't remember her fucking name, but she's a ginger. She's a redhead.
So Piper.
Um,
Pippi
Piper.
Longstockings.
But she's a ginger. She's supposed to be very, a bit fiery. Kirsty. That's a fucking name. Close enough. Oh yeah, she's supposed to be real fire. She's supposed to be a ginger. She's supposed to be white. However, what they did in the BBC version was, yeah, but they had to take one of these people and they had to make them black. They
So
didn't
they
choose.
take the fiery bitch to do it.
Yeah, but they have Yolis. Yolis is black. He can't rap. He can't dance. He doesn't care about hip hop, roots, soul, reggae. He never says yo. He is a fucking study rat. He likes brass music. He is essentially, think about the counter stereotype for what they make a black dude. And at the same time, this guy is friends with Big Mac, who is essentially a vandal, very close to looking somewhat like a skinhead.
Interesting.
And they have all of this going on. They have Kirsty, who's admittedly a little bit of a bitch, but they choose to make her black for no reason, rather than no good reason. And they find it weird that people don't like the way that they portray shit.
It's almost like when you change things for token reasons, you end up screwing over the character and causing more issues than you think you solved.
No, pretty much, yeah. It's a bit really fucking sad.
Which is where some people got worried, and there are some people who are upset with the casting choices and everything on Foundation. Yet the way they did it there, yes, they changed things, but the story still remains, and it wasn't done as it. Some of the changes may have been done in a token manner, but it wasn't done to such extreme that it ruined the story.
I'd say that's the most important thing too. It seems really fucking hard to do. Because it's so much more important to make it a token and then hope that people will just identify with them, I guess.
Will accept it. But, see, that's the thing. The difficulty is making changes to an established story that don't ruin the story. That's what they can't do. Because if someone enjoys it, if it's a well-liked thing, they have to ruin it. And the people who don't are the ones that actually have the talent and skill, and they're the ones who should be supported and lauded, not the wannabe pseudo-political failed activists. But with
It's
all
sad.
it really is. But with all that, we are at a point where I'm gonna say it's gonna be break time for those all who are in a time frame when dinner would be appropriately served, or to do other stuff and things for a couple hours before we go back on air with the rest of the merry band of Chucklefucks to really dive into some other things, because
Yeah, because the D was surprisingly large.
maybe that's why he's having such a hard time with the alcohol now.
Probably. It just flows right through him.
We'll see you all soon for the wonderful return of